بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, we continue with the chapter of al-ittiba', and the ittiba' is one of the elements really that bring back to the ummah is honor, and bring back to the ummah is correctness and the reform, and all of that, as we said, by building the high spirit, the ulu al-himma, and ulu al-himma is an al-ittiba'. We're still, exploring one of the great meaning of the ittiba', and afterward we'll take the examples of great high spirit in the ittiba' of the Prophet ﷺ. In this hadith that we have mentioned last time, we'll resume with it. قال عن أبي موسى قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مثل ما بعثني الله به من الهدى والعلم كمثل الغيث الكثير أصاب أرضا. The parable of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent me with, the guidance and the knowledge, it's like a rain, abundance of rain that has been falling on a certain land. Now the example of the Prophet ﷺ to give like three types of land that is going to receive this rain, هذا الغيث. And this rain is assimilated, or in the example representing the guidance and the knowledge, the guidance and the knowledge. قال فكان منها طائفة طيبة قبلت الماء فأنبتت الكلأ والعشب الكثير. So I said there is one group that they have received, so a group which is people, believers, and in the parable is the land. So we have a fertile land, free from any disease, and received all this rain, and it grows a lot of plants, and grows, vegetation. فأنبتت الكلأ والعشب الكثير. وكانت منها أجادب. أجادب is the plant that is flat. It can store rain, but it does not produce or does not grow anything on it. So it's like stores the water. قال فأجادب أمسكت الماء فنفع الله بها الناس. So people have benefit from this land by getting water out of it. The first one, it will really soak, they get the water, but it grows on it vegetation and plants and grass and pastures and so on. The second one, just store the water. So people, they get benefit of it. قال فشربوا وسقوا وزرعوا. The Prophet ﷺ said, they drink from the water, they use it to irrigate, and they use it also to plant. وأصاب منها طائفة أخرى إنما هي قيعان. There is another group which is assimilated, or in this example, like a land that is flat, stony, it will not benefit from the rain that is falling on it. So قال قيعان لا تمسك ماء, it will not absorb and store water, ولا تنبت كلأ, and it will not plant or grow in it any of the vegetation or any plants. قال فذلك مثل من فقه في الدين ونفعه بما بعثني الله به. So the Prophet ﷺ is going to explain this parable. So the first group, who is like the rain, who get onto fertile land and grows or like plants in it a lot of vegetation, those are, as the Prophet ﷺ قال فقه في الدين. The first aspect, they understood the deen. They have knowledge of the deen, and knowledge with understanding. This is a faqih, a scholar, a knowledgeable person. وَنَفَعَهُ مَا بَعَثَنِ اللَّهُ بِهِ. And he has great benefit of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent me with. So he's been a person who learned, understood, and act upon it, and فَعَلِمَ وَعَلَّمَ. So he knows, and he act upon what he knows, and he taught what he knows. And this is, subhanAllah, are the high level of the scholar of this ummah. So the scholar, the true scholar, from the righteous predecessor, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with them, those who learn the deen and they become guided guides. They guide people and they are guided. Because remember, seeking to be righteous, it's not an end in itself. Because righteous to help yourself and help others. But if you restrict it to yourself, that does not becomes an action of righteousness. For this is the example of the scholar who teach, who learn, who spread the knowledge, like mashallah, if you look in the ummah, from the companion Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, Khulafa al-Rashidun, and the greatest scholar of the companion Mu'adh or Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And so those are those, subhanallah, like this example that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. The second example, قال ومثل, the other one, the people, the lesser level, those who they memorize and store knowledge, but are not able to, subhanallah, to benefit themselves with it, or like implementing it, or dig into it, analyze it. So this is people like, subhanallah, like the Prophet ﷺ قال in a hadith, making dua, نظر الله وجه امرئ من قال, subhanallah, in the meaning of the hadith, communicated the hadith, قال من حدث بحديثه وأعطاه لمن أوعى منه, أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he communicated the hadith to a person who has more knowledge, more reflection, a person of analysis, of reason. So when that person will receive this hadith, he's going to analyze it, extract from it the ahkam. So this is from the first category. The second category, he's only stored the water. It's like memorize Quran, memorize ahkam, memorize hadith, but he's not able to develop, or like, subhanallah, to analyze it, or to bring from it ahkam, or to make action of ijtihad. So these are the second categories of al-huffaz. They call it al-huffaz, as the scholar they said. It's like, subhanallah, recipient of knowledge. They will teach it, but they are not able, all the other scholars, to get out of it ahkam and everything. So this is also great categories, are being, subhanallah, custodian of the knowledge of the Sharia, but they convey it for the people who has more knowledge to analyze it and be their, sources of ijtihad. قال, the last one, who al-qi'an, subhanallah, with the abundant rain, they not get benefit of it at all. It's either Muslim, قال لم يرفع بذلك رأسا. لم يرفع is like someone need to be honored, need to be, his head to be raised up with the guidance and the knowledge. But a Muslim who's looking at this all knowledge and being neglectful and will not embrace it or adhere to it or learn it, is like, subhanallah, being, subhanallah, misfortune. He's being, subhanallah, someone who's transgressing himself, because he has all this knowledge to be honored, to be elevated, and he's turning away from it. So all this knowledge, abundant rain, is not, subhanallah, planting any purity in their heart, no good moral, but being always obstinate, being arrogant, and so on. قال من لم يرفع بذلك رأسه ولم يقبل هدى الله الذي أرسلت به. And the other categories are the disbelievers. They didn't accept the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as a believer here, to follow this hadith, to understand that the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ is like the rain needed for life. That's what it means. Therefore, the guidance for our Prophet ﷺ is not something to learn it as etiquette, to learn it, as a way to emulate the Prophet ﷺ in his attire, or in his, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in the way he used to do many things that it's coming into his generation, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, from the way combing the hair, things like that. But emulating the Prophet ﷺ in what gives you life, because here in the hadith is very specific. We're talking about rain that gives life. And when it gives you life, which is the life of the guidance, it's going to grow into your heart a lot of element of that guidance, the love of Allah, the way of the trust, the way of the tawakkul, the racing for the good, the great akhlaq. All of that is what you need to be planted into your heart out of this guidance. So here the Prophet ﷺ, someone will be also held accountable on the way you have dealt with the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. عن المقدام ابن معد كرب قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا إني أوتيت القرآن ومثله معه. This is a very important hadith. I have been provided the Quran ومثله معه, and with it exactly like it. ومثله معه, مثله معه is the sunnah. So So the Quran, because the Quran is wahi, and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is also revelation. فما وجدتم فيه من حلال فأحلوه قال ألا يوشك رجل. Subhanallah, he's describing for us people who are going to come from this ummah how to be like, wicked and transgressing themselves. قال ألا يوشك رجل شبعان على أريكته. Look how he describes the Prophet. It is about a time when a person full of time, shab'an, he's like he ate so much, laying down on his chairs or his bed or his couch, على أريكته. يقول, he said, عليكم بهذا القرآن, is upon you, take care of this Quran or follow the Quran. فما وجدتم فيه من حلال فأحلوه وما وجدتم فيه من حرام فحرموه. Whatever you find in this Quran halal, follow it. Whatever you find is haram, so you have to avoid it. And this person that the Prophet ﷺ is describing, he's neglecting and denying the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So you see how out of arrogance, out of ungratefulness, this person, and he described him someone who's not, someone who does not have that degree of piety or respect, because a person when he's like he's so full and talking about the Quran and laying down on his chairs or his couch, is mean like this person is already arrogant. This person is like not to listen to, because in someone giving advice or giving instruction in this position is not a person already respecting what he's saying. So he's saying just we need to say take the Quran only, which is mean let's neglect the Sunnah. And there's a group they call them Quraniyun. Still now I think we have Musa'ib. So this is how the Prophet ﷺ talking about them. قال وإنما حرم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كما حرم الله. Indeed, whatever the Prophet ﷺ made haram is exactly as Allah made it haram. ألا لا يحل لكم الحمار الأهلي ولا كل ذي ناب من السباع ولا لقطة معها. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, and it is haram for you to eat the meat of the donkeys at that time, because it was halal and the Prophet ﷺ make it haram. So to specify that what the Prophet ﷺ make haram is haram, it is not in the Quran. And all the beasts that they have the canon also is haram. However, there is a hadith to explain more further. But to see what the Prophet ﷺ made haram is haram. It is from Allah. مَن يُطِعِ الرَّسُولَ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ. Whoever who obeyed the messenger, he has indeed obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other hadith in another narration, قال لألفين أحدكم متكئا على أريكته. It's the same example. So متكئا is like laying down like this. It's like not caring. It's like he's the boss here. وَلَيَّذُ بِاللَّهِ. That's how the Prophet describing this person. يأتيه الأمر من أمري. When a command from me comes to him, someone tell him, the Prophet ﷺ said so and so. قال مما أمرت به أو نهيت عنه فيقول لا أدري. I don't know. It's like I don't want to know. ما وجدنا في كتاب الله تبعنا. Whatever we find in the book of Allah, we follow it. SubhanAllah. How many people they are doing the same now? People who follow their whims, they say, you see, you're saying this hadith, who's this hadith? Who wrote this? Who is this Bukhari? Who is Bukhari? Who is Muslim? He said, it's not about the Bukhari, Muslim, about this. The Prophet ﷺ said, what we find in the book of Allah is that what we have to follow. This, subhanAllah, is denying one of the source of the Sharia. It risks for this person to come out of the fold of Islam, if they insist. Because this is wahi, he's denying wahi. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد تركتكم على البيضاء ليلها كنهارها. I have left you with the clear white light. Each night is like its day. Each night like its day. It's like it's white all the time. It's like you have a sunny night and sunny day, which is mean like there is no crookedness, there's no ambiguities. It's very clear. It's very clear. قال لا يزيغ عنها بعدي إلا هالك. only the one who go away from it or go stray from it, except the person who's going to be corrupting and ruining themselves. وَمَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever who's going to live after me, he's going to see a lot of differences. فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِمَا عَرَفْتُمْ مِنْ سُنَّتِي. So follow and stick and hold to what you know from my path, my guidance. Because that's the way of salvation, subhanAllah. That's the way of the safe way. وَسُنَّةُ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ مِنْ بَعْدِي. And then the path of the righteous guides, Khalifas, that all of you know. عَضُّوا عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِذِ. Bite on it with all your strength. So it's like, subhanAllah, your secure way of perseverance, of success, isn't the ittiba'. Isn't the ittiba'. وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالطَّاعَةِ. And you have to obey your leader when he guides you to Islam, even if he's a slave. He's a slave from Abyssinia, which, like, you know, those the majority of the slaves that they have in Arabia at the time, they are from Abyssinia and some from other places. So he said, even if you become, like, because Islam does not discriminate between anybody, if someone is capable to be leader and he has the knowledge, so regardless of his background, then you have to obey him, as the Prophet ﷺ. فَإِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُ كَالْجَمَلِ الْأَنْفِ حِينَمَا قِيدًا قَادٍ. Al-mu'min is like the camel who is always, his head is up. But when you hold him to be followed, he will follow, as long as it is the guidance of Allah and His Messenger. The other hadith, with which we'll stop inshaAllah, always the Prophet ﷺ, most of his introduction, he starts by reminding us of this aspect of the ittiba'. قال أما بعد فإن الخير الحديث كتاب الله. The best of the speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And the best of the guidance is the guidance of Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. وشر الأمور محدثاتها. And the worst of the matters are in innovation, reside into innovation. And this innovation is a bid'ah. So the innovated in the deen, which is not in the heart or the core or the body of the Quran, nor of the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. Therefore, if you innovate something, that element that innovated does not lead to anything. It does not lead to Allah, it does not lead to the Prophet ﷺ, because it does not have a foundation. It's not from the wahi. Anything from the wahi, it's like what gives you life. And that when it gives you life, it plants in your heart purity, into your sight, subhanAllah, more sight, and to your action, guidance, and good action. But the innovation looks like is from the Prophet or from the Quran, but it does not have foundation. It's not going to lead you to anything, but it's going to, subhanAllah, plant into your heart ضلالة, misguidance. And the misguidance, what it leads والعياذ بالله to hellfire. فنسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يثبتنا على الاتباع ويثبتنا على سنة المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم. جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم. If you have any question, you are welcome.